All right, we're going to be looking at meditation from Thais today, trying to get through measures 1 through 21. So the first thing is, if you haven't done this already, make sure you go through this and mark your measure numbers. At least the version that we're looking at does not have measure numbers marked, so go through and just mark them down the side. That way it's easier to find what we're looking at here. Also, a really big recommendation I have before you even start working on this piece is to make sure you listen to it. And as you're working on it, continue to listen to it. It wouldn't hurt to listen to this piece once or twice every day as you're learning it. A lot of times with this higher level music, there's some weird, tricky rhythms or some weird intervals that you have to find. And if you know what they're supposed to sound like, it's going to make your job much easier. So make sure you are listening to this piece so that you can get the idea of what we're going for with it. It's a beautiful piece of music, lots of dynamics and expression in it, lots of opportunities to use vibrato. Today we're mostly going to be looking at the notes and the rhythms, so we're not going to talk about the dynamics as much. We can come back to that later once we have the notes down. So we're taking a look at starting on measure 3. That's where we come in. Those first 2 measures are just the piano part. We don't have to do that. In fact, it's a good thing we don't have to do that because some of those notes are too low for us to even play on our violin. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and mark the very first note starts in 3rd position. I'm going to add all the markings too. That way, when we come back to it later, I know what I've already told you to mark. So we start in 3rd position on an F sharp. The nice thing is this is in the key of D major, so we know how to play in D major in 3rd position on the A and E string, which is where we spend a lot of time here at the beginning. It's the whole half or the 3/4 pattern. So we've done a lot of practice with that. That should actually feel pretty easy for us. So if we go from the beginning here, starting with 3 fingers, you're going to hold that first note for 2.5 beats. I always get nervous when a piece starts with a long note because it's very easy to just hold it and then kind of get lost and then just move on whenever you want. You have to be really counting for this whole piece, subdividing in your head. So as you're counting this, you're thinking 1 and 2 and 3. Da, 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 da. So you have to count 1 and 2 and 3, then you move on. So the first couple of measures here should be pretty straightforward. They'll sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, all within that D major scale. You might have noticed I did play open A, and that is okay to do. There are instances when that's okay and instances when it's not, and in this piece, that makes sense instead of crossing over to the D string to do 2 fingers. You could do that, but I'm okay with open A. It's going to measure 5 now. So we have a dotted dotted quarter note D and an 1/8 note E. Then we have 5 notes. It kind of looks like a triplet, but instead of a 3, it's a 5. It has the same meaning as a triplet. So now instead of 3 notes fitting into 1 beat, all 5 of those notes are going to fit into 1 beat. Again, this is a spot where if you listen to it, you know what it's supposed to sound like, so it's not that scary. And that's my recommendation for knowing how to play that. Listen, and you'll be able to just know what it sounds like and get those notes in. 3, 4, 3, 2, 3. So it's kind of like a little turn there. In fact, I think in some versions they just write an F sharp with a turn over it, but it's kind of nice that they wrote it out here. And then the 4th beat, we have a high A. Normally that would be 1 finger on the E string in 3rd, but we're going to pop up and do the harmonic. And it gives a kind of a neat effect there. So if you start from the 3rd beat, it's so just stretching up for that harmonic. And then as we play the open A, we actually get to go back to 1st position. So for measure 6, you can mark that is in 1st position. All right, so we are going to go from the beginning, from measure 3, where we start playing, see if we can go measure 3, 4, and 5. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, good, awesome. All right, then we get back to 1st position just for a measure. We play B for the dotted half note, C sharp, D, back to 3rd position. 3 fingers for that F sharp. Now, in our version that we have, it says for that G in measure 7 to do 2 fingers. You'd have to shift back to first position for that. I would recommend to not do that. Go ahead and cross that 2 out and make it 4 fingers. Stay right in third position. It does not make sense to go back there. So I don't know if I said this, but mark third position over that F sharp in measure 7. So as you're in measure 7, you have an F sharp, an E, a G now that we're going to play with 4 fingers. The next note is a D sharp. Normally your first finger plays D, so you're going to scoot your first finger up a little bit higher to play a D sharp. It's easy as that. And then your second finger then would go right next to it, so half step. Okay, so that measure is F sharp, E, G, then D sharp, E. Now here's where things get a little strange. You might see over the next measure it says S-U-L, Sul A. That means play this next part on the A string. Those are normally E string notes. So we're actually going to have to shift even higher. We're going to actually go into 5th position. So over measure 8, go ahead and put a Roman numeral 5. We're going to be in 5th position here. Okay, I promise it's not as scary as it sounds. You just got done playing D sharp, E. Your next move to 5th position is just to go up one more step with your first finger. So this note, that's an F sharp. You can hear it down here. And when you're up there, you're in a 1-2 pattern. You might even take your pencil and mark a half step in measure 8 between the F sharp and the G, the first and second finger. Those two are close. So it's going to be 1, 2, space to 3, but not that big of a space because you're in 5th position. Tiny space to 4, 4 fingers. And then that next note is an octave lower, a B an octave lower. You're just going to go back to first position. And then measure 9 is in first position for a little while. So to kind of review, I'm actually going to play for you from measure 6, from first position. So you'll see how we go from first to third to 5th, back to first. Okay, so here is measure 6. So we have B. Third position. Here's the D sharp. Up to 5th position. And back to first. And you could even mark that it is back to first position there at the end of measure 8. Okay? We're cruising through this. Nice job so far. So measure 9, again, starts in first position, C sharp, D, E, and make sure you use 4 fingers, up to third. That's kind of an interesting shift there to do mid-slur, and it's pretty fast. That might take a little practice to get that down. Now in measure 10, I'm going to again change something. It says that they want you to play the F natural on the E string. Again, to me, does not really make sense to shift back for that. I don't really see, I think they're doing it to kind of help with the dynamics. They want you to get forte and then back down to pianissimo when you play the F sharp on the A string. I think you can still do those dynamics in third position. I just think it's going to be, it doesn't really make sense. It's going to be much harder on you to shift back. So go ahead and cross out that that's 1 finger. That's going to be 3 fingers. So the way measure 10 will work, 2 fingers for E, close 3 for F natural, and then a space to 3 for the F sharp in the next measure. And this should look familiar. This is what we played at the beginning. Now 13. Instead of counting 1 and 2 and 3 in your head, you're now going to have to subdivide to 16th notes because that's what we're doing in this measure. So it's going to be 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and ba da 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 da. That's how you're thinking about it in your head, is the 16th note. So this is what measure 13 will sound like. Again, all in third position. So this should feel very comfortable. So it should be 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and. Okay, now we go to 5th position again. You're going to really love 5th position, or you'll have a lot of experience with 5th position after this piece. So in measure 14, mark that's 5th position. So we're going to go fifth position here. Okay, in this particular spot, you're actually going to do all whole steps. So it's a C natural, to a D natural, to an E natural, to an F sharp. Now I just want to show you, this is what my whole steps look like. So they're actually not that big. Like a whole step back here is this big. So you do not need to be stretching your fingers as far as you can. They also, though, aren't touching. If they were touching, then you're probably closer to a half step than a whole step. So let's go from measure 9, 10, 11, where it's back like the beginning. Okay, so find that F sharp. Doing great so far. Cruising through this. Here we go. Ready, and 1, and 2, and 3. Triplet. Good. We're going to count 16ths. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and. Good. Fifth position. Space to 2. Space to 3. Space to 4. And 2 and 3. Now we're going to go back to third position, but it's an extended fourth finger. So it's right here. D sharp. That's one spot that I even have a hard time with when I'm working through this. So it's going to be 4. Triplet on B, F sharp, G sharp, D sharp. Oh my goodness, I'm getting my letters mixed up. B, F sharp, D sharp. That's the end of measure 15. So it's 2, 3, and then you scoot your first finger right up under your 1. And then in measures 16 and 17, again, if we're talking about subdividing and how you're counting in your head, you're now going to start thinking triplet, 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 instead of 1 and 2 and, because all of measures 16 and 17 has kind of like a 12-8 feel. It's all triplets, but if you can think back to pieces that we've played that were in 12-8, it's going to feel like that. Okay. Let me just make sure I'm telling you the right thing here. Oh, it actually looks like they have you in 16 go back to first position. I actually think that that would make it harder. I would stay in third position. Let's see. Now, I've always played it at 16. The beginning is a harmonic. It doesn't look like they've asked you to do that here, but I think that would be a good thing to do. Well, maybe not with the forte. I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave it up to you, but you still should do it in third position. So stay in third position there. So you could do it with one finger. Yeah, maybe that would help with your dynamics. So one finger at the beginning of 16. So there's all in third position. And then up there, now you do the harmonic. That's right. Sorry. Scratch everything I just said. I was thinking of the wrong part. I would do the 16 still in third position, but that would be one finger. I would not play it as a harmonic. Measure 17, that's where the harmonic is. Then back to first position. And then we're going to get this next part in a minute. Okay, hopefully that made sense. 16 and 17 are a little bit harder of measures because you're thinking, not only are you thinking about the triplet, the different rhythm, the different feel of that, but now you're also doing some really tough fingerboard geography work up in third position. You really have to know what fingers play what note. It wouldn't hurt you to write down the finger numbers just for that measure. You probably don't need them for the rest of it, but for 16 and 17, if you need them, that's not a bad thing to have to write them down. Okay. Now I'm going to look at beat 3 of measure 17. This kind of starts a new section. You can see you have a B, you're at first position there. Then they have you shift up to third. This is not just regular third, it's actually a third and a half position for a C sharp. That's the note there, and then your D is going to go right next to it. It's a half step. And then you can see now in measure 18, it says Sul G. That means on the G string. So the rest of this is going to be on the G string. So we're going to again have to shift to fifth position. I told you you'd get really good at fifth position working on this piece. So at the beginning of measure 18, go ahead and mark that. That is fifth position. Okay. You have an E to an F sharp. You see the half note's an E. The next quarter note is an F sharp. And then the F sharp has next to a G. There's the half step, F sharp to G. So go ahead and mark that. That's where your close fingers are going to be, 2 and 3. So it'll be 1, 2, close 3, 1, 2. Then, so I'm on the third beat of measure 19. That's a B. You have to play that in first position. So you're going to go back to first position for that one, just for that one note. And then you're going to go back up to third position. The last note of measure 19 is an E. So you're going to do that with 3 fingers. And then 2 fingers in measure 20. Close 1 for a C sharp. And then 2 and 21. So let me go through that because I know that was a lot. I'm going to start on the third beat, the low B, in measure 17. I'm not really going to worry about rhythm too much because we'll play it in rhythm in a moment. So I have that quarter note, that's a B, up to C sharp, close second finger for D. Now we're going to fifth position. Put your first finger on the E. Good. 2, close 3, 1, 2, back to first position, back to third position with 3 fingers, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so if I was going to play that in rhythm, again, I'm going to start on the B, the 2 fingers, and I believe that's going to be an up bow. It's in measure 17. It'll sound like this. Okay, so a lot to work on. It's only 21 measures, but there is a lot going on here. This piece is so slow. Normally the advice is slow it down to make it easier, so you can learn the notes. This piece is already slow, so it wouldn't hurt you to do what I did when I was demonstrating measures 17, 18, and 19. Just go one note at a time, and you can have your tuner out and check and say, am I playing the right notes? And again, if you listen to this enough, you'll know if it sounds correct too, if you have it in your ear. So let me play all of this for us from where we come in at measure 3, and then I'll leave you to work on this. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3. Back to third here. High 1 for the D sharp. Fifth position. Back to first. Close 3. Up a half step. Count 16ths, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and. Now back with a high 4. All right, so hopefully that was helpful. Good luck working on this, and I'll be back soon to look at the next passage.